Hi everyone, it's Chris Tilley from Pantaenius Sail and Motor Yacht Insurance. I'm here today with Brian Gatt from MPS Marine Protection Systems. Brian is an expert in marine electrical, corrosion, and pretty well all things boats. Brian, thank you for coming today.
Not a problem, glad to be here.
Boats, they're made up of a number of different and complicated systems.
Sure are.
So we have you here today to walk us through certain things on board, what could go wrong, and what to look out for.
So we're quickly going to jump on board and look at everything from through-hull fittings, engine, rigging, also the electrical systems, do's and don'ts, but we're also just going to give you a quick guide on the whole system, all around and about.
Perfect. Let's jump on board and check it out.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with is through-hull fittings. They're a common point of failure in most boats. A lot of people fail to check them. Very quick and easy. Quick visual inspection, make sure they're not leaking, make sure they're not changing colors too much, make sure the valves operate. Very important to make sure your valves operate. And this is a thing I'd recommend to check weekly, if not monthly, or each time you use the boat. Quite open, close. Check your hoses. No cracking, no major degradation, no leaking obviously. On this type of engine here, we've got water pumps sitting right at the front. Make sure there's no corrosion, water coming out. Fan belts, make sure they're intact. Got a bit of pressure on there. Obviously we're going to do this all with the engine off. And make sure you've got strainers and everything else looks in generally good condition. But that's something you want to do on before you go out cruising, and also when you come out after the day of using the boat. Make sure it's open, make sure you've got no water flowing about, and obviously no silly oil leaks or anything else. And check things from there.
Okay, Brian, the through-hull fitting here looks to be in really good condition, but one thing I've noticed is that it is only single hose clamped. Now, from an insurance point of view, we recommend that all hose fittings are double clamped. Can you please explain the importance to that for us?
So no material will last forever, and probably the most material that will fail in this situation is a hose clamp. There's a lot of movement and stress and give on the hose, so you want to make sure the hose clamp's doing its best job, and that's where we typically see a lot of boats fail and sink.
Right,
Yeah.
So we both know none of these fittings last forever. That's through hulls, that's ball valves, that's hose clamps.
Yep.
Can you explain when these should all be checked and when they need to be replaced?
So typically I would check them either every time you go out using the boat or on a monthly basis. Every time the boat comes out of the water, which is typically yearly, we typically ask people to check them with a rubber mallet, make sure they're all exercised, make sure they're not corroding away or leaking, and making sure they're in proper condition and working correctly.
Great, thanks, Brian.
So we're talking about bilge pumps and bilges, keel bolts, through-hull fittings, and everything in this lower bilge section. It's an electrical nightmare. Damaged cables can cause stray currents and cause major electrical issues with keel bolts eating out or transducers failing. It's really important to make sure the cabling inside a bilge is done 100% perfect, and highly recommend a marine electrician. They've got the right tools, the right connections, and they've got the know-how. But one thing that everyone should be doing on a regular thing is to check the bilges. Most people go and just lift the float switch and check to see if they hear the bilge pump's working and operating. The second part is to make sure the bilge pump is actually pumping water. So one of the things I highly recommend people to do is make sure the bilges are always clean, but when they're testing, always pump in water into the bilge and watch it get pumped off the boat. Water in bilges or faulty bilge systems are one of the highest reasons why boats go to the bottom or suffer major water damage. To ensure that these systems are done correctly, it's the responsibility of the skipper, the owner, and it's recommended to have a marine electrician check all these systems on a regular occurrence. So simple battery maintenance. It's quite a simple thing. Batteries need to be fully charged to enable them to operate as they're required. However, one of the things that you need to consider when you're charging batteries, make sure the chargers are set to the battery type that you're charging. You need to make sure cables are tight and free from corrosion. You need to also make sure in a boat, it's very important that the batteries are fully locked down and cannot be moved, a bit like this one. Make sure there's no swelling or distortion. If you have any questions, please refer to your local marine electrician. They are completely capable to come out and test the batteries, make sure your cabling's correct, make sure your charging sources works, because you don't want to get let down from a battery system that's not operating correctly. Batteries 101, refer to good quality trades to ensure that they're installed correctly, but also look after them because they'll look after you.
All right, Brian, so we've done our check on the engine and the through hulls. Now we're gonna turn the key, turn on the engine. Can you walk us through what to look for?
So first things first, we're going to make sure the engine starts up and runs nicely, not too many clunking noises. We're going to make sure our oil pressure alarm goes off. We've got correct voltage on the volt gauge, which is 13 to 14 volts. We're then going to go outside the vessel to make sure we're pumping water out the exhaust. And it's very important, we don't want to overheat the engine. And then from that, we're going to put the engine into gear while we're tied up to the dock, just a little bit into gear, into forward and reverse to make sure the gearbox is operating correctly and as it should.